said, I walked away from the ground thinking it had been about a 20-point win to the Australians. So imagine my surprise when I read the scoreline later that night when I got back to my hotel. I thought, was that the half-time score? And I remember looking at my phone like kind of, you know, you have to squint, shut one eye to read things.
Yeah, you thought surely it says 24-8 because that was how the game felt.
Yeah, exactly. But Sean Johnson held up right at the death as well in this one, which, if he'd managed to score and then convert, of course, would have meant a draw for the Kiwis. So,
which is phenomenal.
Close, considering how dominant Australia were. Actually,
both games had exciting finishes.
Is this a really strong Kiwi defensive performance?
England scoring after the hooter, and the Kiwis finally showing some sort of attacking endeavour and ability to break down the
That's it. But we go to the fan reviews then. Alan Walker says, obviously much better than the warm-up match. Great to watch, but like preaching to the converted, it probably won't draw in many new people. I'd love to see all those Wasps fans now throw their yellow and black away and pick up some sky blue Bears merchandise and get their butts to the Butts Park Arena. Very good work there. Alan, Alfie Garnett said... Oh, go ahead.
I was contributing to the look of Wasps fans because I had a yellow, white and black hat on.
You did,
well, didn't I?
And you were supporting Oddballs as well, one of the rugby league charities, so fantastic. Absolutely. I neglected to wear any kind of rugby league paraphernalia this week.
You didn't even have your SLP shirt.
No. What did you say in the car on the way down? I look like my mum's dressed me for a birthday party.
You look like a 10-year-old whose mum had dressed you for it. Yeah, because you looked all neat and stuff.
Well, I made an
effort.
You
don't normally look neat.
I was meeting fans, so I made some effort.
Friends, I call them.
You might call them friends, Tom, but I call them fans. You smug twat. Right, Alfie Garnett said, never say die from New Zealand earns them a clap from me. However, the last 5 minutes tells us what England have to do. Pick Williams at 7 and Widdop at 6, then play more off-the-cuff football. If England go in playing too much structure, it will be good night from us and good night from them with a margin of 20 points plus for the Australians. Gate Graham of Ball tonight. From a neutral perspective, take about lads. Cutthroat Jake, nice to hear from you. Got in touch. He said, yet again, our frailties show through. We have very little creativity through the team. We particularly need to do more with the wingers than using them as battering rams up the middle. Paul got in touch and said Scotland gave a good account of themselves considering 85% of the squad.
Tom, what you've done here is put a load of England-Scotland reviews.
I have.
In with the New Zealand-Australia reviews.
Yes.
Because you're not used to how these rundowns happen. People don't chronologically add them on perfectly for us, Tom.
I thought you'd done that. I just couldn't
what I did is copied and pasted all of the reviews into an email for you and thought you would have fixed them up to put them in the right places. Because I do that when I do the show.
When I got to the third England game review and then saw that it was Australia and New Zealand from there on in, I thought, haven't we had a lot of reviews for England, for Australia versus New Zealand?
No, we got 2.
But no, we got 2 in. Right, okay, well, let's go back to the England and Scotland game.
And one of those was mostly talking about what England need to do next week.
I know, exactly. You think I'd have picked up on it by now. But let's go back to let's give people their right to speak about the England-Scotland game in that case then, and just, sorry for the cock-up, lads. This is what happened. I'm the night supervisor of the Super League pod. It'll be much better when Mark takes control of things again. Okay, so regarding the England game then, Cutthroat Jake, we've covered. Paul Campbell also said Scotland gave a good account of themselves considering 85% of the squad comes from lower league rugby. I'm not sure that that's true. McCormack is a decent coach and gets the players to wear the shirt with pride. Has for England as well. We're awful just at the start.
We love Paul, but we love fact checking.
Do love Paul. Under Bennett, the team seems to have gone backwards and seem clueless. It can't be 85% from a lower league.
Lachlan Coo,
NRL.
Lewis Tierney,
Super League.
Ewan Aitken,
NRL.
Kane Linnett,
NRL.
Matty Russell,
Super League.
Danny Brough,
Super League.
Danny Addy, Championship. Adam Walker,
Super League.
Liam Hood, Championship. Although, is he still at Lee? Will he be in Super League with Lee next year?
I don't recall. Shall we credit him with being a Championship player?
Yeah, go credit. Okay, Luke Douglas,
Super League. Soon.
NRL now Super League. Ben Helliwell,
Lower League.
Dale Ferguson,
Lower League.
Well, he's signed for Huddersfield, hasn't he?
But they're desperately trying to get rid of him.
So last year he played in
Lower League, Rugby League.
Ben Kavanagh,
Lower League.
Tyler Castle. Now Tyler Castle is on the books of the West Tigers, but I've never seen him play for them.
So if we're saying you're not playing in the
NRL, got your internet up.
No. So if we're saying if he's under 20s at the Tigers? Are we going to say that he's lower league? Cause he's
Let's just go his lower league.
Lower league.
Frankie Mariano, Super League.
Super League.
Callum Phillips, lower league. Sam Brooks was at Widnes last year, wasn't he?
Yes.
So Super League, technically.
Yep.
He didn't play many games, but he
played Super League.
Played Super League.
There you go. So that's 10 of your 7. So that's your 17. So 10 of your 17 playing in either Super League or the NRL. So it's not 85%. It's, in fact, less than half.
But it's, the point he's making is we're playing against a team with a squad that did have a large contingent of lower...
Yes.
And we should have done better, and he's right.
He is absolutely right. He goes on to say that under the Bennett, the team seemed to have gone backwards and seem cluelessly. Whitnell said that last play, where we went all in for 6 points and got it, was brilliant. The players believed in themselves, carved out an opportunity and took it clinically. We need to find that attitude for 80 minutes next week or we're going to get pumped. Scotland were great, and if Benny Brough had brought his kicking boots and they hadn't given away so many penalties, it could have been a very different result.
Yeah, they just really have in both games hammered themselves with errors and penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan Witts.
Let's hope they don't do that against New Zealand and beat them.
Yes, I'll be cheering them on Friday night. Alan Witts said, I would liken this to an England football match. They made it hard for themselves, got the win, but without doing anything special. Scotland did themselves proud. Gale can't seem to bring his cast form to the international stage, and I think Watkins went missing again. Would like to hear his stats.
Watkins had that good moment in the first half, didn't he? There was one good break he had up the middle before George Williams did his play that then set up the position for the Whitehead's first try. But the stats that I've got for Callum Watkins are 22 tackles with 2 missed tackles, which actually is pretty good defensive numbers for Callum Watkins. They've obviously targeted him knowing he jumps out the line and doesn't know what he's doing. They scored 1 try through that area, but actually that stacks up pretty well for him. 6 carries for 55 metres, so decent average, but not a lot of involvement. No breaks, no offloads, 1 error, 1 penalty conceded, 6 passes. Very limited involvement with the ball.
You would say so, wouldn't you? Alan Witts goes on to say, so he did do that. His final comment on that was, England know they will need to raise their game. Williams and Widdop in the halves for me. Chris Macy says, well, it wasn't what we expected from England, really, but credit to Scotland, especially that first half. I feel it justifies their place here. Not only did the neutrals see a gutsy Scottish performance, but also the Jekyll and Hyde nature of Danny Brough. At one point, I felt Scotland deserved to win this. The Aussies are going to spank us in London. Something isn't clicking amongst the boys, and it needs sorting soon. So that's the Four Nations games taken care of, with a couple of interruptions and some slight cock-ups in terms of the rundown.
Apologies for that.
Yes. So let's take a look
for the interruption. The rundown stuff is the kind of comedy gold that people like to be slid into the show.
This is why people come back week after week. Okay, but let's take a look.
Moments of unprofessional.
Can I end the segment, please?
I was reprising our bit.
I know, it's infuriating. Now let's take a look at some results from elsewhere in the world of... No, he's not going to do it. In the world of rugby league. Right, so to some results from elsewhere in the world of rugby league. We are going to roll back time a little bit on this one because there's been some important World Cup qualifiers going on, some interesting friendlies and internationals being played at the end of the season. Back on the 15th of October, Russia defeated Spain by 40 points to 6, while at the same time Wales were beating the Serbians by 50 points to 0. Now, Bruce was at this game down in Wales, Mark, and he met some of the Serbian lads and went out drinking with them. He was drinking raki out of a bottle, out of a plastic bottle. He was saying with him. He didn't get himself a picture with our favourite
wall running.
The wall running. Yeah, exactly. David Angelic was there playing.
David Angelic.
Yeah, I recorded this one on the red button, but obviously you can't change the commentary
at that point.
So I ended up having to watch it in silence because, as I'm sure the Welsh are of their language. I could not.
And graceful.
I could not. Yeah, exactly. I could not make head and tail of it, so I had to watch it in silence. So that obviously.
Whenever you watch like something on S4C, it reminds me of the sketch that the Fast Show used to do of the thing in the Spanish news channel.
Scotcho!
With Chris Waddle.
Yes, that was, I still love the fashion. Did you ever see the one where she was doing the weather, Carolina Hearn, and she goes, "Not Scotcho, este scotcho, and then she goes, said no scotcho, and the two guys go, no scotcho, and then it cuts to like static, and he comes back, and he obviously kicked the shit out of Carolina Heard, and she goes, it's scotcho. It's fucking brilliant. Not to get sidetracked though. Okay, so Russia beat the Spaniards, Wales beat the Serbs, and then on the 21st of October, Wales and Jamaica played out a very successful friendly match, Mark, over at Bellevue, which was a 16-0 draw with the Reggae Boys Jamaica.
Yeah, it sounded like a cracker, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It was well attended, really, considering the season's pretty much over. Then the following day...
And they weren't playing exactly their... it wasn't a mainstay game. It wasn't, the starting
17, was it? No, absolutely. The following day, though, Spain were defeated at home by Ireland in their World Cup qualifying game, 46 points to 6. And Serbia were beaten at home by Italy by 14 points to 62. The following week, then, saw Wales and Italy play off for the first bite of the cherry in terms of getting into the World Cup. Wales won that by 20 points to 14 in Monza, having trailed early on, and Ireland secured their place with a 70 points to 16 victory over the Russians, which meant Italy and Russia played off on last Friday evening at the Lee Sports Village, and it was Italy 76, Russia 0. So Italy will also be in the World Cup next time round.
I was really interested about all those results, but I was slightly distracted by the CNN coverage you've got on.
All right.
That appears to have what's his face, Lily Savage, Paul O'Grady, talking to...
That's Anderson Cooper, isn't it?
Not him.
Oh, right. Who then? Not this guy. No. But
this makes great podcasting. But yeah, the guy with the glasses and the white hair.
Anderson Cooper.
Right.
He's a news reporter of some repute.
Well, he looks a lot like Paul O'Grady.
In the United States. He looks... yes, he does look a lot like... He looks like a handsomer, younger Paul O'Grady.
Slightly more chiseled Paul O'Grady. But anyway, back to the results.
To the podcast, Mark.
Brilliantly well done to both Wales and Ireland, getting through like they have done. And it means that we've got all the home nations, effectively, at the World Cup next year, which is brilliant for European rugby league because it's our biggest nations. But Italy have got a few star power in there as well that they have. And then aside all of that, I suppose it's really good to see the regular games being played between these guys, and there's the other countries as well. Obviously there was a Spanish international that was played that the French coach couldn't play in, even though he was called up into the squad because England played France at the same time. And there's been those sort of earlier on in the international season period we've been through, interesting stories and stuff. So there's definitely good things going on, and we know obviously that the World Cup has been handed to England effectively for 2021. And we get to experiment when they're growing the teams again. We get to carry that and see if we can deliver on that. I hope everyone will support it as well as we supported the World Cup in 2013, which was brilliant. One of the greatest 6 weeks or so of my rugby league supporting life. I would say I really loved that tournament. And I hope that we get the same experience in
2020,
5 years time. And then the strong recommendation, as it were, is that Canada and USA's joint bid for 2025 is
looking
elevated to succeeding, and that would be good. By that time, there'll have been a chance for the US leagues to have matured because they are developing all the time, and there'll be a chance for the Toronto project to have laid down some real roots, won't there? So you would feel that it would be in a healthier position to carry it at that time. But looking all that far ahead, it's really quite exciting.
It certainly is. Exciting times ahead for rugby league. Right. That's last week and a few weeks before taken care of. Let's take a look into the future now as we bring you our previews and predictions for round 3 of the Four Nations. Right, so the rundown has this the opposite way around. Let's start with Scotland taking on New Zealand this Friday night, Mark, up in Cumbria. I've gone for a New Zealand victory by about 34 points, so 44 points to 10. Let's say I do think the Scots have got it in them. it would be nice to